You're listening to TrawlCast.
Welcome back to TrawlCast for episode 10. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Seth McClellan, and I'm the bass player for the Portland, Maine bass band Trawl. When the world is not in lockdown mode or binging Tiger King, our band plays funky, heavy rock and metal in Maine and New England, and we're just approaching our second year as a band. Our singer Sean Matthews, who is my partner in crime on the podcast, is not with me this week, as this is part 2 of our solo episode series, where we are separately interviewing fellow musicians and friends of ours from the local music scene here in Maine. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out last week's episode where Sean interviews Chris Show Brown, who is the guitarist with the Portland death metal band Stillborn Condition, as well as a psychic medium and an all-around good dude. My guest on this week's episode is Kevin Beling. Kevin is the frontman with the Portland, Maine based band Drivetrain. The band is described as a full-throttle hard rock band with the swagger of early AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and the modern bombast of Clutch, delivered with a double shot of bottom-shelf bourbon and a healthy dose of ironic wit.
Carry that cross, baby. Raise it high again. Gonna cry
Kevin is an amazing performer. His fun and gregarious stage persona is contagious. His singing and guitar style are a double threat when combined together. And offstage, Kevin is an extremely smart and conscious supporter of the music community. Kevin is also a good friend of mine, and we've shared the stage together many times over the years and had many conversations about music, marketing, and life. It's an honor and a privilege to welcome Kevin Beling to the show. Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
I think it would be cool for people to hear sort of, the beginnings of how you started playing music in your early days and kind of what all of the things that brought you to Drivetrain.
So the guys in Drivetrain I've actually known a long, long time. I mean, a long time. I met Alex, our drummer, in 1989. Wow. And I remember because that was the year that Batman with Michael Keaton came out. And you're a comic book guy, so I'm not explaining anything to you you don't understand.
I love that movie. Just after that year it came out, I was Batman for Halloween. So,
well, that's an excellent lead into kind of where I'm going with this, which is... remembers the first time we met, and I don't remember this specifically. I know he came over my house and had a play date when we were 5 years old, and and I do remember doing this specifically. Is there was Batman the cereal, which came out that year, whatever, yes. 89 or and it was an all black box with the gold emblem, which is the cool redesign Batman emblem. And so I cut it out, the cardboard, and then I had a gray sweatshirt, and I duct taped it onto the sweatshirt.
That's epic.
Yeah, and then my mom, she let me be very creative as a child. I took a paper plate and tied it off with pipe cleaners and cut holes in the eyes and put little bat ears on it. And I had like a multi-purpose cape that served for whatever costume, Zorro or whatever else. And that was my Batman costume. So when Alex came over, and I actually don't remember this. I remember making the Batman costume. I don't remember him coming over. He came over, and I wanted to play Batman. And he didn't like playing pretend. That wasn't his thing. And he told his mom after we hung out that he didn't want to go over there anymore. So we also had surgery on my Buddy doll. We took a butter knife and we cut up my buddy doll, which is kind of screwed up. That's really kind of sick. But that was the first time Alex and I ever hung out. And true to his word, we didn't have another play date. And we didn't hang out again, really. I was in school. I had one class with him, or third grade, we were in the same class. But in fourth grade, I had moved away to Connecticut, and I moved back to Maine, and I moved into a new house, and the house was like right near his, and neighborhood kids. We started hanging out, and and we've been hanging out ever since. And that's, I don't know, 20, 30, a long time, almost 30 years.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
And we've been hanging out pretty much nonstop since then. And a couple years after that, Alex started taking drum lessons, and I didn't play an instrument at all. I picked up the trumpet. I tried. I didn't have enough patience, and it wasn't cool. I don't know, whatever. So Alex and I, we hung out, and he played drums, and then he invited this other kid named Ben. He invited Ben over, and Ben had just started taking bass lessons from Val Molyneux. Did you know Val? You're a bass guy. I don't know if you knew Val.
No, I actually don't know Val.
He is an old blues guy.
Really?
Taught, I think, out of the West End in Portland somewhere. Anyway, I don't know where he is.
That's cool.
And then Alex was taking lessons with Bob Pennault's uncle. What's his name? Anyway, it will come to me. But they were taking lessons, and I remember specifically the first time we ever jammed is they played. This would have been mid-90s. They were jamming on the Enter Sandman riff.
Yes.
And I just came in and started making up lyrics over it because I didn't have any musical ability. And then I kind of I was into sports, and I didn't really do too much music for the next few years. It wasn't until high school. In high school, I started playing guitar, and Alex and Ben had continued to jam that whole time, and they were getting better and better. And my dad actually decided he was going to play guitar, and he, middle-aged midlife crisis kind of thing. He bought more than one guitar, and then he let me use the other one, so I just started playing it. And then I brought my guitar. One day I felt, I had enough balls to go over and play with Alex and Ben, and there were some other kids too. And I jammed with them, and I wasn't quite there yet with guitar, so I was like, oh, but I'll sing. So I started singing, and and we sung Twisted Sister, We're Not Gonna Take It, and a few other songs. That's the first song I ever sung.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We started liking a lot of the cheesy 80s stuff in high school when it was really not popular at the time, and that's kind of more or less led to Drivetrain. But yeah, we ended up, we had a few different lineup changes, but we ended up forming a kind of a cover band with occasionally did originals. We called it Benny and the Bullets, and we played a lot of Guns N' Roses and some Led Zeppelin and some other Aerosmith and some other stuff. And we actually, this is around 2000 to 2002. And so we did actually cover some new metal stuff too. I think we played Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
Oh yeah.
And a couple, and we played Last Resort by Papa Roach. So we tried to throw some contemporary stuff in there, but we were mostly kind of into the, classic hard rock.
Classic rock, yeah.
Ben, who is Ben, our bass player in Drivetrain, he was the singer in that band. And
he was the singer.
Yeah, he was the singer. I was on guitar, and Alex was on guitar, and we had another guy on drums. Alex plays multiple instruments. He's a pianist too. I
didn't know that.
Pretty talented guy, and he writes a lot of our lyrics. But anyway, what was I saying? So Ben quit at one point, and then we went in search of a new lead singer, and we tried out Alan Jones.
Oh, really? Okay.
And people who are listening to this podcast, probably the intended audience, all know Alan Jones from Fifth Freedom. So Alan, I think we offered him the spot. We played Van Halen and Thin Lizzy with him, Unchained and what was the song?
And this would have been pre Fifth Freedom. This would have
2001. 2001.
2001. Okay,
This
so,
is right.
yeah.
This was like a month after 9/11. This is like October
Yeah.
'01. I don't know why I remember that so well, but anyway, I guess that's a memorable time in everyone's life. And
Yeah.
it's just like right now. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Hopefully, forget some of the boring parts of this podcast, but forgive me. But yeah, so we tried out Alan. We played "Boys Are Back in Town" and just some rock and roll songs. And Alan was like so enthusiastic, and he's a good singer. And Alan had done theater. He had been like Jesus Christ Superstar, and
I've heard him talk about that.
Yeah, and he was starting to learn guitar, but I think he was more confident as a singer because he had done that. And anyway, it didn't work out. Not any fault of Alan's. It just Ben wanted to rejoin the band, and Ben was our long-term friend, and that's how it worked out. So
Yeah,
Ben rejoined the band, but I stayed in touch with Alan, and he started, I think, doing Fifth Freedom, what became Fifth Freedom, around 2003. Which is when I went to college. I started a band in college, and then Alex and I stayed in touch over, so we were good friends through college, and we both decided we were going to drop out and move to California and become rock stars. So,
hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Shell from the band Stillborn Condition, and you are listening to the TrawlCast.
in 2005, Alex and I packed our bags, loaded up all of our gear into a Dodge Dakota RT, which is like a muscle truck that had like it was this kind of obnoxious vehicle that we had a tonneau cover, and we just shoved all our gear into that, and like, you know, one pair of socks or something.
It's like the perfect vehicle for that road trip.
Yeah, no, it was perfect. It was really great. So we drove all the way across the U.S. We with all of our gear in there. It was locked, but you know, we did a giant trip across the country and ended up in Los Angeles, like almost out of money. And it was Halloween, and you know. I think we did save enough so we could pay for first month's rent. So we didn't have no money, but you know, we had enough. Like, we were cutting it close,
just enough to get there and put your stuff down. And then
exactly.
You're like, all right, we're out of money.
And we did, yeah. And so we showed up and like Halloween '05, and I remember all the people dressed up, and we got drunk at a Halloween party in Redondo Beach, and we didn't know where to go. So we lucked out and got an apartment in Hollywood, and we put Craigslist was brand new, and MySpace was brand new, and so we put an ad out on Craigslist. We formed a band. We put it on MySpace, and we rehearsed in North Hollywood at this kind of famous little, not famous, but if you're in the LA music scene, which I was for a very short period of time, but it's this kind of infamous little rehearsal studio in North Hollywood, which is down the street from Circus Liquors, which if you've ever seen it, Circus Liquors is like this giant light up clown.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was 2 blocks away. So we'd walk down to Circus Liquors, we'd get a bunch of beer, and we'd come back and we'd write music at this rehearsal space, which had a lot of kind of hanger-on types. There's some girls that used to be in the adult entertainment industry that would hang out there outside at the deck when you go outside and smoke in between rehearsals. And then there's a guy from Powerman 5000 who lived in his rehearsal space on a couch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then one time we got kicked out of that rehearsal space so Wasp could use it, and we had to give it up for a month because Wasp was going to do a big show. I don't know, they're getting back, or it must have been getting ready for a tour.
That's pretty epic, though, to be like, all right, yeah, we got kicked out because, you know, Wasp needed the space. So.
Yeah, that, you know, and then we were enamored by, you know, kind of that glamorous mid-'80s LA scene, which by 20 years after that was completely bereft of anything. Not that it probably ever was as glamorous, but it was pretty hopping back in the day. But it was not so hopping when we were there. It was just kind of whatever, wasn't it?
Which were you running into some people at the time? Like, would you walk out onto the strip and see some of these people, or did you ever like run into any famous people out there? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone who's lived in Hollywood or lived in Los Angeles will tell you you do run into famous people on a regular basis if you're in West LA or if you're in Hollywood. I don't have any like great stories, but I saw Keanu Reeves and I saw I don't know. I go to the Rainbow sometimes hoping to see Lemmy. And
I was going to say that it's famously Lemmy always hung out at the Rainbow Room and just like gambled at one of those like
video things,
bar video machines, and just like smoked cigarettes all day.
Which is exactly, you could describe Sean from Johnny Kermane's kind of does the same thing at Gino's. But he's the Lemmy. But anyway, yeah, I never saw Lemmy. I saw other kind of like burnout rock and rollers, but I couldn't always put a face to the name. I remember The Game was really popular at the time. The rapper The Game. We saw him rolling around in some giant SUV. We'd run into people, and the only like thing. Our first Christmas there was a couple months after we got there. Alex befriended someone from Maine, just randomly, who was on CSI New York. So we went to the CSI New York Christmas party, and Gary Sinise was not there. So I don't have like I don't really have any great celebrity stories. We played in Los Angeles. That's where I first learned about any internet marketing, anything. MySpace was kind of the new thing, and social media was new, and we were advertising on there, and it kind of fizzled out. I think we were homesick, and it didn't turn out to be. We came out there really starry-eyed young kids, like,
right,
and really were quickly disillusioned. And that's like a classic Los Angeles tale. It's the classic tale, So, but people said that we weren't going to do it, and we were like, we're going to do it, and we did it, and
you guys did
do it. I mean, and then we. So one day we just kind of packed our bags. A couple years later, and we got in the truck, and we went through a bunch of states that we didn't go on the way out. So we did like 6,500 miles on the way back. Went all the way down to Key West, and all the way down to the southern tip of the U.S. We Grand Canyon, all kinds of great stuff. I recommend that to anyone, by the way, especially with this like pandemic. If they can open up interstate travel, just get in a car and drive. Get in a better yet, like a crossover or whatever the hell people have now, and get a sleeping bag and pull over to the side of the road in the middle of New Mexico and sleep, and get cheap hotels and just see the country.
Amazing, life experience, and even though that particular opportunity didn't pan out for you guys, just the life experience alone, I'm sure was worth it.
Completely.
Because you'll always have that experience to look back on, and that brotherhood with you and Alex. And
depends on the day, but depends on if we agree what key the song should be in. But I don't know if I've ever had that discussion. No, I only play an A.
It's too high. I can't sing up there.
Yeah, that's usually what it is. Yeah, but it's usually tough it out. This sounds good this way. Like I said, in the pandemic and all this thing, and people are real bummed out right now, and people are bummed out about America right now. There's a lot going on this week. I don't want to get into that subject matter in this format in this podcast, but you travel around the U.S. and you take in the sheer scope and size and the breathtaking beauty, and you meet a lot of people, and you meet people along the way in little bars, and you meet people who like again some immigrant family running a motel in the middle of Iowa, things like that. And you really get an appreciation, especially some of these cosmopolitan cities with all kinds of people. And I mean, LA is this incredible Mexican culture there. That's just unbelievably welcoming and vibrant. And don't count us out just yet. I will never completely count out, no matter how much, all these bad things going on. Like, I have not soured on the United States. I've soured on certain aspects of it, but back then, this was the heat of the Iraq War too. I mean, we were pretty sour on things back then, and I don't know. There's so much.
I mean, people have an unbelievable amount of resilience and ingenuity, and as you said, the country's beautiful. It's diverse. And you said, there's a lot of hope out there still.
Yeah, I mean, and I imagine for touring bands must feel, have a certain perspective on the country. You get to meet all these music fans and passionate people, and there's a lot of good out there.
This is Craig G from Thems That Wait, and you're listening to TrawlCast with Sean and Seth. Let's take a bite out of rock. Oh yeah.
But yeah, we in 2012, Alex and I, he's been my longtime creative partner, as you can see, we started making short films, and we had 3 or 4 short films, and they were in local film festivals between 2012 and 2015. And we wrote soundtracks to it, and by the end of it, we had almost an album worth of material. And I was like, you know what? This is really my true passion, and we're making this music. It's my favorite part of the movies is the music, and I want to start playing live or do something again. So I'm like, what do you guys think? We turned this little short film company, which we called Drivetrain Productions, and we just dropped the productions, and we become Drivetrain. And everyone was like, yep, okay, let's do it. And
that's cool. See, I didn't know the extent of it. I didn't know that you guys were both filming and doing the soundtrack score songs for the films. That's neat.
Yeah, we did soup to nuts everything. I mean, we acted in it, we directed, we edited it, we learned all this editing, and then I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of work, but it's interesting. You do a movie, you put about as much time in a movie as you do with an album, and then we have one release thing with a movie where we would rent out a venue, and we have a bunch of people show up. It was like a good CD release party. A lot of people are there, and everyone cheers your movie, and it was excellent. And then you can't do another one, really. I mean, I guess.
Right. That's your moment. You kind of release it, and then outside of further marketing, it's kind of out there, and for the people to kind of choose to do what they will with it.
Yeah, which wasn't a whole lot. So then we just started writing. And then this brings me up to when I met you. Yeah. Because we had started writing all this material, and I'm like, all right, who do I know? I know a handful of people. I've been to some shows. I got really into the local band Hessian, and I'd been to their shows, but I wasn't really friends with them, and we weren't really the same kind of music, and I didn't really know. And they seemed like they really had their S together. And but Alan and I just stayed in touch forever, and hung out here and there. And I said, "Look, man, I've got a rock and roll band. You've got a rock and roll band. I know you guys just did this tour with Blackstone Cherry, but if you ever need a band to open up for you at a local venue, just let us know." And he was immediately like, "Yes, absolutely, and come meet my band. I got a new bass player. He's awesome." Because I knew all the other lineups they had. I knew Dan and Scarpo and all this.
I was going to say, yeah, we didn't know each other yet. So I remember one day I go to Alan's house, which was our practice space, and I go in, and I think you're jamming with Alan, and I think Ian was there too. So you guys are all just jamming on some riffs. And I walk in, I'm like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, man? Did we get another guitar player?" And
who is this guy?
But I was like, and that's kind of the way that things were at Allen's. Like, Allen is such a, hey, come on by, like, chuck you a beer. Like, people would always be dropping in at the jam space.
Yeah.
So, like, we didn't think anything of it if, like, some people were over jamming.
Yeah, no, it was cool. It's definitely the rock and roll jam space. If anyone's gone over there and hung out, I've been over there with Sonny and all kinds of local rock and rollers, and Alan is in there in the lab, always coming up with demos and writing songs and playing piano and recording and smoking cigarettes.
I was going to say, smoking cigarettes. There's always, 20 beer cans and
cats.
Cats, but it's the laboratory, man. He's one of those guys that she's just constantly thinking about or working on music.
Yeah, so it was really cool meeting you and Ian, and I guess I had known Gary a little bit before, but not really. And yeah, Fifth Freedom was really great to us, and immediately threw us on. I don't know how many bills. We must have played 5 shows together out of the gate. We played 2 shows in one weekend.
I was going to say, I remember playing like a double weekend where we played at like live at 212, and then we played at Flask Lounge, back-to-back nights with the band
No Hugs.
No Hugs,
Yeah.
Who I think a few years after that, they ended up being on like Warped Tour and doing some bigger things, which is really cool.
Yeah, they're in Los Angeles now, I think. I think they've gone through some lineup changes, but yeah, I think Narcy, she's out in LA now, and
just really cool,
very talented. And I saw some things she recorded with Brian May using Instagram videos or something, and she sounded great doing the.
What?
Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah. That's beyond cool.
And I think she's been on like talk shows over in Crete. I think she's from Crete, some Greek island. I forget which one. I want to say Crete, but I could be wrong in that one. But yeah, that was fun. That was a great weekend. That was the first time I ever met Al Moore. Ben and I, Phil Brick, our Drivetrain's bass player, we had scoped out 212 back earlier, back when it was the Skybox, I think, when we were trying to get the band together.
That's right.
And we're like, oh yeah, this might be a good place to get our feet wet. We just got to figure out who we're going to play with. And then...
And I actually think you guys are responsible for bringing Fifth Freedom there and us there, because I had never played there previously, and that has really become, I mean, everyone from our local scene will say this, but that's really become like the community spot for bands, where, everybody gets a shot and gets to, try out what they're doing and kind of see how people respond. And, Al is like such an awesome patron of, the local scene. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. And I feel like that first year, which was 2016, we played at 212 or 212, whatever we want to call it, a bunch of times, and there was you kind of had a few different people who were booking shows, and it was a lot of metal. And there was Tom and those guys from Port City Promotions who had the band Weapons at Hand that played there all the time, and they did a great job just like packing the house full of all the metal people. And then John Wagner, was the same thing for kind of a more hardcore metalcore scene, and he's still doing an awesome job with that. He's doing Herd Flock this year, which has been great. And they got Green Jello at Herd Flock. Hopefully it all happens. I'm optimistic, for the fall.
Same here, hoping that happens. Trawl is playing.
Awesome.
Devil's Night Out's playing, Sean's other band, and I know Division North is playing. There's so many bands that are going to be part of it. So I'm really cautiously optimistic and hopeful that it'll all happen.
Yeah, I will not be there only because, and John did reach out, but Carrie and I are having a kid in late July, and I think it's just going to be too soon to that I can't commit to a big rock festival. But
Well, I wasn't sure if you were going to mention that, but I just wanted to say, wish you guys both the very best, and new parenthood, and that I know you guys will be awesome parents, and I'm psyched for you guys.
Yeah, it's interesting timing because I was really worried about FOMO because I love going to shows. But and it's kind of weird now. I don't know FOMO, but I mean, this is obviously much, much worse for many, many reasons. And don't take this the wrong way. But I have one silver lining. Now I don't have to worry about missing anything. That's not how I actually feel.
Yeah,
that's a joke. But but yeah. So yeah, I mean, really, and for us, I mean, you and I have been hanging out quite a bit and chatting a lot over the last 5 years now, and since then we've just been rocking and rolling. And I
was going to say, so we talk a lot online, and just like I always, if ever I have an idea or a thought about kind of the scene or like kind of the state of how things are, like you're one of those people that I always check in with, because I definitely see you as a sort of like a contemporary and a peer, and you have a lot of amazing, thoughts and marketing ideas, and you have a great compass about, personally and about the scene, and we've.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and I think it's pretty obvious that I feel the same way. But yeah, no, it's been great, and things evolved, and there's a lot of different kind of philosophies out there, and I feel like when we started in the scene, there's like a lot of metal bands, and there was kind of a lot of things felt more cliquey, I don't know, or they just felt more disorganized. I feel like things have gotten better. There was definitely a real burst of energy in 2016, 17, where there was like a lot of new bands, and there was like a lot of shows, and there was like sometimes too many bands on the bill, and sometimes too much, but it was still good. It was like, wow, thriving scene. And then I feel like
I agree, things
started changing a little bit. I feel like a lot of the bands felt locked out of Portland, and there was kind of this resentment, and just, it's kind of indicative of Maine. There's this kind of, well, Portland people are kind of snobby Massachusetts types, and then there is this kind of rural urban split, and this kind of mistrust. Well, everyone out there is a redneck, and everyone in town's a hipster that has a twirly mustache, and they don't like me. And I don't think that's a reflection at all of reality. I feel like some of that is starting to dissolve people's feelings.
Yeah,
feelings around that. I don't know. I think that's indicative of other cultural things in Maine and in states that have a kind of real hard rural urban split.
There's kind of three Maines. There's Cumberland County and Portland South, that sort of southern Maine, and then there's your central Maine, and then there's kind of the county, Aroostook County. So you kind of have three different states all in one, and then the coast too.
I mean, it's.
I mean, we're culturally very different. You can drive for 7 hours and still be in Maine, and there's many different kind of mindsets, and as far as like income and demographics, and there's a lot there to sort of divide us in that respect. But I. Like you said, I think some of that is going away and getting a little better.
I feel like a lot of I want to give a lot of credit to John Morse from Geno's. He's been really, really positive and open-minded and hardworking about the scene, and he's just like trying to bring people together, bring people in, and make that place very welcoming, and it's been great, and he's been great to work with. There's a lot, there's, like I said, it's funny how like so much can change or so much can be done just by having a few people work really, really hard, like Al Moore, and like John Morris. So there's others too. There's a lot. There's a lot of names all the way up and down. I mean, I have a lot of faith in this scene, and regardless of what happens, and I don't know what to say about some of the venues right now, other than there's something that John posted today, and I did sign this thing. I don't know if it's NIVA, National Independent Venue Association. It's at NIVASOC.
Yeah.
And there's a pre-filled letter in there that you send to Angus King or whoever, asking for some help.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting is what are people doing during the pandemic? People are consuming art, and that is what's keeping people mentally well. It's it is consuming art, whether that's on Netflix or whatever, but that's still created by an artist. People are going on YouTube and watching concerts. People are watching these live concerts, and maybe they're not paying for them, or they're paying a subscription or whatever. But society does value art. It's just that we're broke, and everyone has to make decisions, and a lot of stuff is free or a cheap subscription or whatever. And I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that if we don't find a way as a society, and I'm not saying I don't know how to do it necessarily, other than take money out of your own pocket and give it to artists, which I know you do. This stuff matters, and people do really care about it, and it will survive. In this scene, absolutely, where Rolling Stone said we're like a top 8 scene, and granted, they just talked about the rest of Overtones, but who are great, by the way. They're awesome. We all love them. But it was just kind of fun. Yeah. But even that being said, I mean, we have a scene that will survive. People in Maine are used to being poor anyways. We'll figure it out. But we have all these nice venues, and I just hope we can find a way to support them and to keep them afloat, or let them keep their rent or whatever. I don't know what, to survive until we can have people, because people will come back.
Yeah.
But you have to remember what happened after
absolutely.
the 19 pandemic is you had the roaring 20s. People went to fucking nightclubs. People drank bathtub gin, and jazz was invented, and people friggin' danced till the sun came up to jazz music. And people are no different now, 100 years later. And that will happen, but we need to also financially find a way to do it, And I don't have the answer, but other than, I guess I'll give a little shout out to that NIVA, NIVA, at NIVASOC. Anyway, that's my soapbox. And I've talked way too much, which is very typical.
Well
of me.
said. Well said. Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Well said. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know what the answer is either, other than taking advantage of every opportunity to still support the venues and the places that you love and that you want to be able to go to after all this is over. And, all of the local artists and folks who, are creating now and especially the ones who rely on that for their income. I know I'm in a position where, music is a dedicated hobby for me, but it doesn't pay my bills, and I'm not set up in my life where it needs to. And I know that I think you're in a similar position, but especially for the people who have taken the jump and are just, full-time musicians, really need that support.
And they're better
especially
at it because they spend a lot more time. And a lot of people that do that are the people that are waiters or are cooks or are bartenders, because their flexible hours allow them to go on tour. And right now, both sides of that are being hit real hard.
What's up, guys? This is Will with Twin Grizzly, and you're getting nuts with TrawlCast.
I didn't want to breeze over this. I wanted to talk a bit about Muscles Big. I know it was, a big deal for you guys and for, your fan base to be able to put out a full-length album, and it came out,
Yes,
2018?
The fall of 2018, so not even 2 years ago. Yep.
I just wanted to, talk a little bit about Muscles Big and kind of what that meant for you guys.
Yeah. So Muscles Big. So the title is, now that if anyone's made it this far in this podcast, it comes from a nickname that one of our friends had for Ben, our bass player. It just was a goofy nickname. Doesn't really mean anything. Although Ben did have a muscle car in high school. He had a 74 Oldsmobile jet black. Anyway. And actually, that's on the inside cover of our EP, which we didn't print many copies of. It's a rare collector's item. It's worth
Yes.
lots of money. But anyway, yeah, excellent. Our friend called Ben Muscles Big, and he just kind of teased him and called him Muscles Big. And so we've kind of always had that goofiness in the back pocket. And actually, about 2 weeks before we went into the studio, I'm like, all right, guys, let's write a title track to this. And it just, I had come up with a kind of chorus and some lyrics, and then Butch, I knew we needed a main riff, and Butch just came up with that main riff there, and we just kind of banged it out in a couple days, and the rest of the songs on that, for the most part, are all the live songs that we had written and that had survived our set, that didn't drop off the set over the last, I guess, previous 3 years of being a band.
Gonna put my bottle up, put it down. Gonna fill my liquor cup till I drown. Gonna tip my bottle up to the sky. I'm gonna drink my liquor up until I die. I'm gonna put my bottle up, put it down. I'm gonna fill my liquor cup till I drown. I'm gonna tip my bottle up to the sky. I'm gonna drink my liquor up till I die. Smoke 'em if you got 'em, yeah. Talk 'em if you got 'em. Let your conscience get clean, and you know what I mean. Kneel down and kiss the rain. That's where you've been, and you know what I mean. Fastest you've ever seen. She's your cage. It goes one if I land, and two if I see. One if I land, and two if I see. One if I land, and two if I see. Everybody loves that British pussy.
Yeah, so we already knew a lot of the songs, had rehearsed them and played them live. And then we went to Acadia and worked with Todd and Brian, and yeah, it did it on a pretty low budget over 3 days. We did a long weekend.
Really? You guys tracked
we
the
did
whole album in 3 days?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
The album, we had a few flubs that we had to fix, but most of what you hear is just kind of just a couple takes. We did it. It's not live tracked. We did a scratch track, but we did play to a click and then record each of our parts one by one. But I did the vocals for, I think, the whole album in one time in the booth. And which is like, I think the last track I sung was Carry That Cross, and I'm like losing my voice. There's some croaky stuff in there, but I'm generally happy with my vocal on the album. But yeah.
But I really feel like Drivetrain is, you guys are a live band first, and to be able to capture that energy on a recording, I feel like that was probably a good strategy, because you're almost exhausting an entire live set in the vocal booth as you would if you were doing it live. So, however that comes out, it's really real and honest,
And like I said, I mean, that album, there's not a lot of multi-tracking. There's not a lot of overdubs. It's kind of, there's Butch is on the left and I'm on the right, or maybe it's the other way around. And I don't know. and then the solo, do a couple takes on the solo and pick the best one. And after we did the initial mix, I sent it to you and a few other people and said, what should I do? And I took a bunch of notes. And then we went in for an evening and did mixing. Or maybe we did mixing. I think we did a full day of mixing. We tracked it in 3 days. Then we did a full day of mixing. And then we did another evening, I think, of mixing. I can't remember, something like that. But anyway, it wasn't a lot of time. I wish we had spent a little more time. But, things cost money and everyone, and you have to realize, what is your goal and your purpose when you're recording in your local band? Because you can spend a lot of money. And we have some fantastic recording studios here, and we really wanted to do the full album. Yeah. We're very much an old school in a lot of ways, and that's the old school way of doing it. And I think that's what we're going to do again. I don't know. It just feels, it feels right. But anyway, so you helped, and you helped with the art. I know I was a hard taskmaster, exactly what we were going for with the art, but you do get credit for consulting. And McClellan Marketing was involved in Muscles Big.
Thanks, man. That was fun, and it was interesting for me because you kind of caught me at a time where I was thinking about starting to do stuff for other people, but I hadn't really ever done a whole lot for other people, and I kind of learned a lot about myself in that process of being able to kind of deliver what somebody else is looking for, and being able to say, okay, I can do what they're asking. And it's especially hard when somebody has, you guys had a really finite idea, but I was just psyched to be able to kind of, help serve up a thought and an idea of what it could be. And then honestly, pass it along to somebody who I felt like the artist that you ultimately ended up having finish the cover knocked that style out of the park.
That's the same way I view it. I mean, you really helped us get there with the vision, and then we were able to get a very specific look and feel for the cover with Kayak Illustrations, KYOK, Kayak ILL on Instagram. I found him on Instagram, searching for hashtags of certain. Like retro wave or whatever that style is called, and found him in Australia, and I sent him on, and he whipped that up pretty quick, and I really, but tried to involve local everything for the rest of the process, and we went to not Charlie Christian, that's a jazz guitarist from the 30s. Charlie Gaylord, good old Charlie Gaylord,
good old Charlie,
and Rowan Bishop over at Crooked Cove did the production, and great guys. Rowan has a studio
awesome
as well
guys.
That I'd love to check out someday, and he's a great dude. And he did Ogre's record, which was really great, and among others. And Charlie.
Yeah, that's a killer.
He's a great dude, and a WBLM all-star, and part of the music scene. And he makes what kind of country music? I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, he has a band of his own that he plays in, and like you said, was at BLM for a long time. I know that now Greetings from Area Code 207 is on 106.3 The Bone.
Yep.
It airs every Thursday, and I think it re-airs at some point during the week.
So they were involved in that, and then obviously Bull Moose was very good about getting things out on the shelf.
Bull Moose is the best, man. I could talk about Bull Moose forever, but they're amazing to local bands in terms of, allowing them to carry their, physical albums in stores on consignment. And,
Yeah, and Ed
I
Porter,
got a million good things to say about Bull Moose.
Ed Porter, who's plays bass in Covering Bees with his brother Doug Porter, who plays guitar and everything. They carried us onto Porter Records. It's it's not like a label so much as it is a way of buying local music, but they have copies there. So there still are copies at Bull Moose. There's copies at to Porter Records.
That's awesome.
And then we still have a bunch in a box for the next time we play live. And I think in the last year and a half, aside from being a rock star, accomplished everything I wanted to do as a local musician, except for to just keep playing forever, which is what I want to do now. But we got to open for some childhood heroes bands and got a record release, and people liked it. Well, the small scene that supports us.
Yeah, man, that album release party was amazing. I went to at Empire.
Right.
Rest in peace to live rock shows at Empire. I know they're doing comedy now, but and I still love them for it. And their food is amazing. But that show was off the chain, man. There's very few times I've seen that room that full, and it was an amazing night. You guys had neon pink and green shirts and played up the Muscles Big theme and just that whole 80s retro wave kind of thing.
Yeah,
I loved it. I thought it was
make an
amazing.
event, and it was a lot of fun. It's one of my. I have a few favorite shows. That's definitely one of them. Top 2 or 3. Great night and a lot of friends, and everyone was in a good mood. And we had some technical difficulties, but whatever. It was fine. We had an amp that just stopped working, but that's why I have 2 guitars. You have,
There's always one. Yeah.
And it's I work in IT, so it's called N+1 redundancy. Although it's not N+1 redundancy when it comes to guitar minis, which we love putting on our songs. I'm a big guitar mini guy. I'm a big Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, the Allman Brothers, and Thin Lizzy in the 70s. I love that. I just love that sound, and we try to put a little. I feel like if you have 2 guitarists in a band, you have to find a way to do it, and there's different ways of making those sounds come together. I'm not a big fan of just playing each guy play the same thing. If you're really, really tight and you could pull it off, I don't know. And there's metal bands that do it. I feel like Metallica does it, and then they just turn Kirk down. Yeah. And then they turn him up for the solos, and then they turn him down. But, it's good to play. I think it's good to get some melodies in there, or have someone pick something while the other one does chords, and I don't know, whatever. I got to find a way to do it.
Yeah, man, that's a definite strategy, especially recording, because I remember when we went in to do, the Fifth Freedom record, we were like, yeah, we got 10 songs, and 9 of them have like 2 guitar solos in them, and Wyman was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a strategy to really make these different enough to really be, all necessary, because you gotta keep it interesting, but you also have to make it work sonically, where you're not just occupying all the same frequencies and kind of canceling each other out.
I was in the studio during the recording.
It's a challenge, but that's awesome.
Midnight Rain from that album, and Ian on guitar. And this is another, I think, unannounced visit from Kevin that Alan invited me, and then I think I annoyed Wyman because I was like giving all these pointers, and Wyman's like, "We're on the clock, man. We got to keep rolling. You guys got to finish the song today." But it was fun. It was cool to see you guys do your thing, and the Halo's another obviously incredible place. They've got a song that was recorded there that's charting this week from Taylor Momsen, or the Pretty Reckless, who she's the girl from The Grinch, from Jim Carrey's The Grinch.
Yes,
Did you know
absolutely.
that? She's Cindy Lou Who.
I did know that. Yeah, I somewhat recently found that out, which is amazing. And yeah, that song is just, it's taken off in a big way, and I'm really glad for, for Wyman and for the Halo, because it's kind of a long time coming. Like, they have worked on so many, great records and songs, and I'm just super happy for Wyman and those guys that they found a heater and it's taken off, and it's going to help further cement their kind of putting them on the map in that respect, for other, I think, larger artists to go, this place up in North Windham, Maine is putting out some national noteworthy songs that are
what's
charting,
interesting is
which is amazing.
Todd Hutchinson, I don't think it hurts him at all to have Halo around. I think, if one of these places is doing well, it kind of lifts Maine up. And that's the way I view the scene, too. It's like, another band doing well is not you not doing well. At least before COVID, there were a lot of venues, and there's a lot of places to play, and there's a lot of room for a lot of bands, and a lot of these places were getting good numbers. Not every night, not every show, but I mean, it's amazing. And I wanted to mention, before I forget, Pat Keene did our mastering, and that's Pat Keene Mastering, and he's in the same building down on Hanover Street with Todd at Acadia, and he's really great. He's a fantastic guitar player. He does guitar lessons out of the back of Buck Dancers and maybe online, and he was playing guitar with Rick Charette before Rick Charette retired.
This is Ian from Division North, and you're tuned in to Good Cop, Bad Cop on TrawlCast.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about all of these cool collaborations that have been happening with local musicians in the scene, as far as, since we've been in quarantine, we've been recording songs at home and parts and sending stuff back and forth to each other and putting together, songs and videos to, post online. And I know that you've been part of quite a few of them. We've been part of a few of them together. So I thought it'd be cool to talk about those a little bit.
I had some a home recording rig for a little while. When that stay-at-home order in Portland came down, I'm like, oh boy, I gotta find something to do with my time. I'm not gonna be able to go to band practice. I'm not gonna be able to do anything, and I don't know what's going on with the world. So immediately, I think, out of the gate, and I think I texted you and said, dude, I don't know who else is doing this, but I think we should collaborate. And here's what I bought and what I use, and you should look into it. And I think you went and ordered it on Amazon the next day or whatever.
And I got to give you credit for that, because again, for the second time, like we were talking about before with, you asking me to help do some artwork for the album, you kind of pushed me to think about something that I hadn't really fully realized, that, wow, I can get set up to record from home and actually send people bass lines and all that. It's not something that like I'd ever really done and explored. So you kind of gave me the kick, and it definitely started a huge thing that's been a big part of the last
I got my
10,
stuff
11
at
weeks.
Buck Dancers last fall, and then when I realized I didn't have enough things, I needed a microphone stand. I got Tim Emery delivered to my door, a mic stand, and I think they're still curbside, and I don't know what their open up plan is, but they have a lot of stuff there, obviously, and that's where I got mine. But yeah, I reached out to you, and I think Chris Layton, who I knew, Chris is so gung-ho and so full of energy, and I knew that he was gonna miss the music scene, and I knew right away he wanted to do this, and without even asking him. And
I also knew that he had an electronic drum kit and he had recording software and a digital audio workstation. And so I reached out to him, and I was like, I had jammed with him and Joey before just for fun, and we had done some distance recording. Actually, we were writing some music just for fun, and which hasn't been released, but maybe it will someday. But yeah, so I reached out to those guys and you, and I think Chris just started sending me drum tracks immediately. It was like overwhelmingly like, "Yo, Kevin, I've got like 8 drum tracks." No, he literally said, "I got 4 different drum tracks. I got like a blues one, I got a rock one, I got this." And he's like, "Just play guitar over them and send them back." So that's the first thing I did. I did that. I think he put one of those on Facebook Live where he played over like a blues track that I did. But and then I downloaded a MIDI track of Van Halen, "Ain't Talking About Love," and I was just messing around with with GarageBand and getting like the phaser dialed in and everything and trying to get a good tone. And I was just like, I need to practice, and I'm just going to record this song or this. And then I sent the track to Chris, and he did the drums, and then we did a video, and then he edited it. And we each played 2 instruments. We called it 2-man Halen because it was 2 guys playing the 4 parts. So I did vocals and guitar. And
so perfect.
Drums and bass, and we kind of hammed it up and wore wigs and kind of did the 80s thing. And that was great. We did that, and then me, you, and Joey, and Chris said, "Oh, let's do some more songs." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been trying. I was trying to get Drivetrain at one point to cover Cat People by Bowie years ago when we didn't have enough songs in our set list. And we're like, we got to learn some covers. We actually learned it, and then we never played it live. And we learned, the only song we ever played live is a Motorhead song, the only cover. Oh no, we did a Zakk Wylde thing, but anyway." We decided to do Cat People, and we spent a long time on that and really got it right. And Joey's a great musician, and yeah, I know.
Dude, Joey Nash, for any of you out there, Joey's amazing. Yeah. He's such a great guitar player and a great dude.
Yes.
He actually can sing backup really well, too. Yeah. So that was a super fun song. It's funny about that song. It was in the set list for a tribute show that I was going to do before all this stuff happened. I was rehearsing for the second time to do a Quentin Tarantino soundtrack movie night where we're literally learning 30 songs from Quentin Tarantino movies, like everything from old blues and soul, punk, all this obscure music that Tarantino puts in his movies, and Cat People was one of those songs, and it didn't make the cut in our set list, so I was like, I'll probably never revisit that or play that song. And then you're like, hey, do you want to play Cat People?
And for the Bowie nerds, we
sure,
of course did the album version from Let's Dance.
Putting out fire with gasoline.
That was played on the Serious Moonlight tour, and then the version on Bowie, the version on the Tarantino movie, which is the one, the Inglourious Basterds, is
it's the Giorgio.
It was
I can't remember the guy's name, but it's a different mix of the song. Yeah,
from 1981. It was for a soundtrack that Bowie did, and then he re-recorded it with Steve Ray Vaughan, but that was one thing.
It was much longer.
Joey, I don't know if you want to try to do Stevie Ray Vaughan solos, but trying to do Stevie Ray Vaughan and do it right, which apparently Pat Keen does a very great job of. Pat Keen did her mastering, but it's hard to get Stevie Ray Vaughan right. And Joey, I just said, Joey, just you do Joey, do your own solos, and then I tried to keep up with him there at the end, trading off solos, which isn't easy with Joey Nash. I just, tried to not make it fall apart. But yeah, he's a true student of the craft. I think he plays guitar 4 hours a day to this day. And Joey, I won't give his age, but he's older than Seth and I, even though he's kind of ageless. He's been at it for decades, and he's
incredible. Yeah.
So obviously, and a great guy, and someone I've seen at a lot of shows, and he hasn't been in he's kind of been in and out of a few bands, and Uncle Jack, and since I've known him, Uncle Jack, and then Ella McCrim, and then Signal and Noise. But he still keeps going to shows, and he's great.
When I met him, he was in Clubber Lang, and that band was incredible. Actually, to talk about Clubber Lang, Sean Slaughter was the singer for that band, and we actually got to do a song with him. We did Alice in Chains, Down in a Hole.
Bury me softly in this world. I give this part of me for you. Sand rains down and here I sit, holding rare flowers in a tube.
With Sean Slaughter and Luke Bergeron, who I didn't know. I had never met, but a lot of people out there know him, and I know that he's been in part of the music scene for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know that he works at the drum shop, right?
I showed that video that we did with Luke and Sean for Alice in Chains with some coworkers, and one guy's like, "Oh yeah, I know Luke from high school. My buddy Jerry just Jardin's at work. He's like, I know Luke from high school. He was in a Rush cover band in high school, and he's an unbelievable drummer." So not a week later, after my friend sent me that, Luke gets his old Rush cover band from high school back together and does Limelight, like note for note, like
I couldn't believe how spot on it was, and even the guy who was on vocals, I don't even know who that is.
No,
absolutely slayed Geddy Lee, which is not easy to do. And I'm like, who are these guys? And, Luke was just incredible. Like, I remember he sent a straight through take of Down in the Hole. It was his, he did 2 takes, and he's like, oh, this is, second take, literally straight through, flawless. I'm like, wow, man, okay.
I did a fun one with Brandon Tardif and Mike Fox, who were both in Spider Milk at one point and been in other bands, and 2 kind of cornerstones of the Lewiston hard rock heavy metal scene, those guys. And then Sean Callahan, who just did a pitch perfect Randy Rhoads. We did Steal Away the Night, and I did it in 1 take, and then my recording rig broke, and it's still broken. And I'm waiting for tech support to get back with me so I can do more of these. But I took that 1 take, and where my voice was kind of going. But that was still fun, and those guys it was fun to work with, especially because Brandon just recorded into a cell phone, and then we had did some post processing to add some reverb and make it sound, EQ it. It's amazing what you can do with such little expense and some little technology, and it really is, I think, keeping the scene going a little bit. I think people really appreciate it. And I do want to give one shout out, since you invited me on this, is my brother. My brother is a musician. My brother does music for a living. So obviously that's a scary times for people like that. And he moved all of his piano lessons online. But if you go to Michael Beling Music on Facebook, and he's got a website too, he does a weekly concert live stream where he plays for 2 hours or 3, a long time. And he does mostly jazz standards. Yeah.
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 I watched a little bit of it last week.
And my brother, who's
Really
you know,
good.
if you know me, he's similar, but also very different. It's interesting. People get a kick out of it. He's the real musician. So he's the true musician in the family. He does it for a living. You know, he does lessons. He plays gigs. He plays a lot at Blue. He did some benefit for Blue on one of his recent concerts. But every Saturday night he does a live stream, and the live stream stuff has been pretty awesome too.
Well, the one that we just put out most recently, and this song was something that Joey came up with. That he threw it out there. He said, "Hey, what about doing the song Love Alive by Heart?" And I have to be honest, I had never actually heard it. A little, shameful that I had never heard it, but I went and checked out this song, and it's like really intricate, and there's this cool kind of like acoustic 12-string guitar thing going on, and like it's got a bunch of C's, but the message is really cool. And we said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And it ended up becoming something really cool. We pulled in Sierra Carey from As Friends, Chris Layton on drums, and obviously Joey Nash on guitar. And then Chris had this idea to go out and get some footage from all of the local venues around, and just kind of drive by, check out, whatever they had going on in their marquee, film a bunch of our local spots that we all know and love. And then have people send in, photos of them kind of holding up the heart sign, and just kind of like made it this really big community effort, which was so cool. And he spent hours upon hours editing it and, mixing together all the footage from us playing it with the footage from the clubs and everything. And just, I have to give him so much credit on this because he put in hours and hours and hours of work on this. And I think it came out really cool.
And, it was real, it was just like a good little tribute and a good little like love letter to the venues. Like we were talking about earlier. And the performance was unbelievable.
The sky was dark this morning when I raised my head. I stood at the window, darkness was my bane. The suddenly sunbeam filled me to my weary heart. It was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen. I knew I had to keep my love alive. Keep my love alive.
So Sierra, I mean, when people first hear Sierra, and this was especially true when she was like 16 and out playing shows, people would be like, holy, I can't believe this person. She's just was at the time a teenage girl from Waterville, now a 20-something woman from Waterville, and like that people didn't know, and just blows. She knocks everyone's socks off, and that whole band is always good, and they're like so tight. And I met them when they were the Resistance.
Great people.
And they used to play with Fifth Freedom, and then Drivetrain did a couple shows with them, and we did a show with Elder McCrim when Joey was in Elder McCrim, and Joey's jaw hit the floor. I think Joey said this is the best band in Maine, and
seriously, they're from Burnham, so that they're a good solid almost 2 hours north of Portland, and they'll come down occasionally and play some shows. They've been playing a bit more as of most recently, like in the end of 2019 and the beginning of this year. But same thing, I met Sierra and the Resistance and those guys back probably almost 10 years ago when I was in Loki, and in Fifth Freedom we played a bunch of shows together, and they've just never ceased to amaze. They're a great band and great people. So it was cool to be able to finally collaborate with her.
They're all really cool people, and and that's the other thing is Sean Slaughter, who has a recording studio and does good job mixing, and he also does lot of audio video work and sound work as well on movie sets and TV commercials. He's another multi-talented guy, and obviously, and also is like the world's greatest Freddie Mercury impersonator, and fills the concert halls of Maine a couple times a year with the Queen Masterstroke Experience. Sean did the mixing and mastering on, I don't know mastering, but he did a mixing on both the Alice in Chains songs that you and I played on with him and Luke, and also this one you just mentioned.
He's a really good engineer as well, and good dude. So yeah, these things have been a lot of fun, and like, you know, I can't at this point picture, you know, what would have happened if you know, you hadn't reached out to me or none of these collaborations were kind of happening. I feel like this has really been shaping up to be kind of an important part of all of our sort of mindsets and our process as we kind of
it'll be interesting to see what happens next. I have hope that there'll start to be some outdoor shows where you can do social distancing and it seems to be, from what we know, that playing outside is good. We're lucky enough in Drivetrain that, you know, we have a large rehearsal space and we can be spaced out from each other and wear masks. So we didn't rehearse for months, but we just started dipping our toes in, and you know,
we didn't
gonna watch the news and see how things go. But don't watch too much news because it's good to have your mental health as well. You know, listen to music and listen to your friends' music. Seriously. And that's a lot what I've been doing. And but yeah, we're starting to dip our toes back in, and it'll probably have a big interruption with the kid, but that's for a good reason. And but Drivetrain will definitely return. We exist. We're playing music. We're writing songs. There will be another album, absolutely, and we'll have a big fucking release show and go absolutely nuts at it.
Thank you all very much for tuning into TrawlCast. It really means a lot to both Sean and I. We're having a blast creating this show every week, and it's helped us to both stay happy and productive during this crazy time that we've all been in, and we hope that it's been bringing you some fun and positivity as well. If you like what you hear and you want to make sure that you don't miss out on future episodes, please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. The show is available on just about everywhere, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and our YouTube channel, just to name a few. If you love the show and you want to help more people find us, we'd be honored if you would share our podcast on social media or send the link directly to a friend who you think might dig us. If you have a question, a comment, or a show suggestion, feel free to cast us a line at trawlband@gmail.com. Next week, Sean will be back on the show with me for more shenanigans, and thank you all again for listening. My name is Seth McClellan, and this has been TrawlCast.